Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters. This time we're going to be showcasing 6-star EX, 3 out of 5, Battle Tower Leon, also known as Leon Alt, and a Dragapult. So, I pulled this guy off of, I think it was the Mix Scout. Just randomly. Cool, I love it. I really like the outfit for this character, like the theme, obviously, Battle Tower Leon, you know, the Battle Tower is a great theme. And then I canted him to 2 out of 5 for his multipliers, because 2 out of 5 Arc Leon's actually, not Arc Suit, what? Battle Tower Leon's actually got some good stuff in his grid. But then I ended up pulling another copy for him to get to 3 out of 5. Off of, I think it was the Dragon Ground High Score event banner. So now he's just been 3 out of 5, and I'm happy for it. Because I get to do the showcase now with him at a very good level of investment. So, what does this guy do? A lot, honestly. This guy is very funny because he's got the kind of quote-unquote redundancy, but not necessarily redundancy because the effects are still good, in the fact that he does a lot of gimmick checking, but has piercing blows. Most of the gimmick checks in this game are related to status change, stat condition, or debuffs. All of which Leon can do. He debuffs stats with his buddy move, as well as having Unfortunate Strike, which debuffs a random stat every time an attack lands, and if it's AoE, of course it's AoE, and if it's multi-target, again, or multiple turn, whatever it's called, attacks twice in a row, multi-strike, that's what I meant, it obviously does the same effect multiple times. He's got Unfortunate Strike plus the buddy move, which is very solid, honestly. I mean, a lot of times if you're going for damage, you're not going to want to use the buddy move. You're going to want to use Dragon Darts because it does 110 power each attack. It's basically 220 power, right? That's good. But this move is less gauge costly, and it's AoE, and still 132 power. It lowers target attack, defense, and speed as well, so you do have some good debuffing effects on top of the Unfortunate Strike. So there are reasons to go for both Dragon Darts and the buddy Breaking Swipe. He's also got Will-O-Wisp. This is what leaves the enemy burned. Status condition, pretty good, right? And there's some decent effects on this. And he's got himself the Trainer move, which raises his attack by 4, speed by 1, and crit by 3. Very solid self-sufficiency, and the speed is very nice as well. Look at his stats, by the way. His stats are good, too. 486 attack, 558 speed, good lord. 222 in both defenses, and 813 health is also very, very solid. So his stats are nice. Again, he's got Piercing Blows, which, if you don't know why Piercing Blows is so good, it effectively shuts down a lot of content in the game in terms of, like, what enemies have what gimmicks. It ignores enemy damage reduction passives, it ignores crit protection passives, and it ignores endurance, which is all extremely good, because a lot of stages, a lot of fights have things like Fluid Fortification, Cute Senses, there it is. Cute Senses, and just other things that really are annoying damage reduction-based passives. Piercing Blows hits right through that. Same thing with, like, Tornadus, where he's got Healthy Advantage, and also Robust Physique, which protect him against crits and reduce damage whenever he's not affected by a status condition. Leon hits right through that, which all of those abilities really, really solid. And things like Annabelle have Fluid Fortification, Evelyn has Fluid Fortification, the new Morgan Ultimate Battle gets damage reduction when her defense and special defense are raised. So Leon's able to just hit through all of those effects, which is really good. He's also got Impervious. Leon is a great counter to Morgan specifically with the most recent Ultimate Battle that released yesterday, because he's got Impervious on top of stat debuffs, which, while he's got Piercing Blows, right, I mean, he doesn't need the debuffs to actually do damage. It enables his allies to do damage. Like, if you're running him with Champion Nate, or Arc Suit Lance, or any other, like, big damage-dealing, attacking character that you want to run on that team, Leon's able to enable them because of the debuffs he can do. All those are just, and these are just the effects that are really in his base kit. What I mentioned earlier with him having status changes is that he's got Flabbergast 9 here in the grid. This is at 2 out of 5. Really doesn't have too much use since, of course, again, he doesn't really need any status changes to deactivate gimmicks because he doesn't really care. But if you do want to use this to, like, protect from damage, you can try that. And, of course, if you want to activate the multiplier, which I think he's got somewhere in here, yeah, Confusion Synergy 1. I mean, it's not a great multiplier, but he does have it if you do want to try and, maximize damage or whatever, right? Again, it does exist as an option. In terms of his nuke, he's got the innate of Power Play. The more stat debuffs, the greater the nuke. Of course, that's going to be strong. And at 3 out of 5, he gains Scorching Sync 5 and Bronze Sync 5, extra 100% just for having Burn and the attack raised. So Leon will be able to get 220% total multipliers off of his 486 attack stat with his Tech EX effect of 330 power on his Sync move. So he's got good damage, right? He's got good DPS with Dragon Darts, solid AoE damage with his Buddy Breaking Swipe, and a good nuke, right? And again, piercing blows to hit through enemy gimmicks and a few other things. He's got abilities in the gauntlet that can be mostly used in the gauntlet, but I've also used them, elsewhere, like max regen and max damage guard. These could be very, very useful effects for protecting against damage and providing healing to him, which obviously is going to be really useful for a character that seems to be mostly like damage oriented, less so of actual tanking and everything else like that. So he's got a few other abilities, but those are probably the most notable. He's got something like hit burn opponent super effective next, catalyst, and a few other things as well. So we'll go ahead and hop into some battles and take a look at what Leon can do in the actual, grand scheme of things, right? So let's go ahead and hop into some battles. Alright, so the first battle, I wanted to actually do the ultimate battle versus Morgan, and yeah, again, Leon has the ability to deactivate her gimmicks with his debuffs, but also hit straight through them with his piercing blows. So I went for the burn here so we could get all of Leon's multipliers active, because I believe I ran on this grid Burn Synergy 1 in his grid, Burn Synergy 3, which is 40% extra damage for his Dragon Darts and Breaking Swipe, and I also ended up running his nuke with Bronze Sync and Scorching Sync, so he's got his full nuke as well. I think I gave him max regen as well as the super effective next on using not breaking swipe. I think it's just if you hit an enemy that is burned, he's got a 50% chance to get super effective next, which is obviously going to be really good because he's got very good damage on all fronts. So no matter what you've got that super effective next boosted, Leon's going to be good for it. I brought Cynthia because she's got impervious, defensive buffs, potions, physical moves next to buff Leon's damage, and Nate's damage, who I brought for the Dragon Zone, physical moves next from the circle, the power up from the circle, and also just a good source of extra damage. Having one of the best one of the best AoE nukes in the game, especially being a dragon type super effective against this stage. One big issue to worry about with Morgan is, in this setup specifically, activating Nate's damage, because you do need the debuffs for defense and special defense for Nate to actually do damage on the setup, so we have to rely on Leon to do that, and Cynthia, who I gave Mind Games to. I don't think she ever actually procced it, so cool, but whatever. We did end up having all the debuffs necessary for Nate to actually be able to hit through the enemy here. Sadly, he does not have piercing blows. Really wish he did. Does very, very good damage, and we can chain that immediately into a Dark Black Outrage, which will also be boosted by a ton of damage because, again, they've got all of their enemy debuffs activated and whatnot. Leon able to debuff the side's defense and attack is very good as well for activating Nate because the sides have defense and attack damage reduction, where, again, Morgan's got defense and special defense. They've got attack and defense. Now, this is about where Nate stops really being super helpful because they did Morgan buffed all of her team's stats by +2, so we do have to worry about that, but this is the point where all of the sides are super low on HP, and Leon can mostly take the frontier from here. We got the super effective next applied again, and we've got our nuke pretty much fully maxed out with Leon here, and we go ahead and go for it after the Dragon Zone boost. I think the circle was not up, but we did about 100,000 damage, which in its own right was also good. Now we actually did apply the circle here, and we were going to be using the max move, hopefully finish off Morgan, though I don't think it actually does, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. And again, sadly, Nate does not have his damage here, or at least he's not going to because his sides have attack buffs, and Morgan, I think, has special defense buffs. I could be wrong, but it doesn't really matter too much anyway because we're at the very tail end of the battle here, where Leon can mostly take over himself and be just fine. And I did, of course, give physical moves next to Nate for his outrage here, so I could at least do as much damage as possible, even though, yeah, it's not going to be that much. It did KO the Haxorus, though, so that alone is already really good there. Went for the Breaking Swipe to debuff the enemy stats there, and we're now at the point where we can easily finish off with Dragon Darts on both enemies. Cynthia did go down to the Hyper Beam, which is annoying, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter too much. It's fine. And Nate's also able to damage the Latias there because they didn't have special defense debuffs, but Leon was mostly able to handle it himself as well, just fine. So there we go. Handled the ultimate battle versus Morgan. Of course, 2 Master Fairies doesn't make it too impressive of a run, but it does show that Leon's prowess in this battle is very effective. The Impervious blocking all of Morgan's debuffs, which are very potent and very, very quick if you're not careful about it, is really good. It's being able to ignore all of those, which Leon's got, and his for one, being on type is obviously a big advantage, and being able to activate other characters who do not have things like piercing blows with all of his debuffs for this stage is extremely good, and the fact that he doesn't have to worry about those debuffs himself means that he can ramp up damage very, very quickly and be a very, very strong option for this fight, and many other fights of a similar caliber. Alright, so the second battle is a Legendary Arena solo versus Cobalion. Leon is good against a lot of Legendary Arenas simply due to that gimmick of being able to disable enemy conditions, right? I mean, he's able to do, I think, 13 solos. The only one not being able to be soloed is the one that is a literal flinch lock if you don't have any fucking setting of weather. Anyway, yeah, Moltres. But Cobalion specifically is a good handle, not simply because he can actually deactivate Cobalion's gimmick anyway because of the burn, but because he actually does need the piercing blow. Okay, he probably doesn't need it. I'm not going to go that far to say it, but it does make it a lot easier to actually have the piercing blows because Leon more so makes use of the burn because of the 50% debuff that it brings to enemy attack, or like whatever marginal amount of debuffing it is, and also the burn chip damage that they take from actually making an action. So it's actually pretty helpful here to have the burn simply because it makes them do less damage. I mean, that's nice, right? On top of the attack debuffs and whatever else. But anyway, moving on. Leon's able to solo these arenas pretty effectively simply because he's got things like max regen, which is very helpful, and max damage guard, and again, the piercing blows plus his damage, especially under his amazing speed tier. His speed is absolutely amazing, which enables him to actually have a lot of gauge, so you don't have to run many lucky skills. I ran fast track, not a good lucky skill to run. Run like fucking, especially against this one specifically, run like fucking stoic or fighting guard, or max or healthy healing or something like that. I did take a lot of the routing and for this run from Naomi's run, her her 3 out of 5 EX solo, so just wanted to put that one out there. Technically did steal this run, but I mean, hey, whatever. Leon's able to handle this fight extremely well, and a lot of arenas extremely well because of his piercing blows, his damage, his gauge for that damage, and debuffs being very potent, being able to disable or like deactivate enemy damage or mitigate enemy damage because of the attack and special attack debuffs is one of the biggest things. Being able to have max regen to again apply healing to himself. Will-O-Wisp at the very end here to actually be able to effectively spam, which is good for healing and also good for getting down the turns so he can get to his next move, which I did a little bit too much. I should have gone for breaking swipe in a few intervals there because he got pretty damn close here. Had to take a Sacred Sword, not fun. Almost lost, just about backed out there. Oh, fun, whatever, doesn't matter. Able to KO here, very good stuff. Great damage, piercing blows, debuffs, a lot of different tools that Leon's got at his disposal to be able to handle these stages. I think one of his biggest weaknesses is simply because his defensive prowess isn't like amazing. I mean, it's good, it's great even. But this guy, a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at, you need like either really good skill gear, or you're gonna really want or heavily prefer having good debuffs early on, or like misses, stuff like that. Like the Stone Edge was pretty crucial for this run and stuff like that. I think that that's probably his biggest weakness, is that he's great at deactivating this stuff, but it's making it a lot easier if you run him in like a duo with like a cheap partner that can take a few hits for him, and then he can really start getting going. But he's still so strong for this game, one of the best characters for sure, because of all of the gimmicks he's able to check and have piercing blows anyway, just to naturally gimmick check units as is. For the final battle, I wanted to do some sort of battle challenge. The only one being up right now is the one for Arc Suit Leon from his current event. And this one is pretty good showing, because they do have the thing where you need to have, I think it's like a status condition or a status change, I don't know, I honestly don't remember, in order to actually like deactivate the gimmicks and whatnot. And I just throw in 2 supports here that could provide good healing so that we could just focus on Leon being the main show, I guess, right? Again, piercing blows, able to hit through all these enemies' gimmicks and whatnot, being able to debuff them to all health so they're not doing as much damage. And then we've got the potions here from Skyla and Cheryl providing extra gen all, right? Always really good. Again, obviously you could run different characters here, you can run whatever, but in this case I just wanted to run 2 supports to focus on Leon and him actually being the one to beat the stage and whatnot. Piercing blows is nuts. Absolutely love it. What do they have? Yeah, no negative status change, damage reduction by like fucking, what was that, 80%? Yeah, 80%. Cool. They do have dodge here, which Leon disables indirectly, I guess. He doesn't disable dodge, obviously, by having like piercing gaze or something like that, but he does have, the potential to debuff enemy accuracy. So if you do want to, run a tile like that or try and fish for those type of debuffs, you can, but it wasn't really necessary in this run, thankfully. It didn't need it at all. Very helpful. And we end up with the nuke here. I mean, very, very strong. 22,000, love that. And I got the regen from Cheryl, but of course, if we didn't want to run her type of regeneration, then we could, of course, just use max regen on Leon if we really needed the healing. But Skyla is able to provide healing on her own, so it doesn't really matter. Point is, with this part of the segment is that, again, Leon's got so much gimmick deactivation, he can fight a lot of stages. I wanted to do one against Thornton. I doubt I'll end up doing it, but if I ever feel like in the mood or something like that, I might end up posting a battle versus Thornton's ultimate battle with like Leon and Arc Suit Lance, just for fun, because again, Leon can deactivate Thornton's damage reduction gimmicks, though he cannot actually hit through Thornton's defensive passes. That's one thing, well, defensive buffs, I guess. That's one thing that you can't really hit through on piercing blows, is you can't hit through actual defense raising. So things like Sentry Entry ×2 and Wise Entry ×2 or ×3 or whatever, those can't be hit through. You will still have reduced damage, and a lot of these ultimate battles that have like defense ×3 when something or whatever, you know, those don't get hit through, but those that have damage reduction passives actually do, which again, in Morgan's case she does, Annabelle's case she does. Thornton has, I think, Acute Sense, the same ability, and Leon would do good against that stage as well, but also he would have the damage reduction until the last half of the battle because of Thornton tripling his defense until he gets hit with 60% HP or whatever, right? So he would be able to hit through Argenta's passive as well. So that would, I think so. Would he? I don't remember what passive Argenta has. It doesn't matter. Anyway, not really the point. Leon, good gimmick deactivation character with a lot of good damage as well. Debuffs, so potent. Such good debuffing ability is always really good in a lot of characters, and Leon is no exception. So still a really good character. His EX roll was pretty decent for the speed buffs and extra attack and whatnot. His Super Awakening, I don't actually remember what it gave him. I think it's pretty decent though. At least in the stats, it's definitely decent. But whatever, not really the point. So yeah, that's what I thought about Battle Tower Leon. Let me know anything about him down in the comments below. Very strong character still. Yeah, I'll see y'all later. I hope you all enjoyed. Peace.